What if a single oil deal could completely redraw the world's energy map? Well, today we are diving deep into a really bold new strategy that connects South American oil reserves with a massive push for nuclear power right here in the US. It's a plan with absolutely huge implications, so let's get right into it. So, let's start with the big question. How much can one oil deal really change things? I mean, can it actually ripple out and affect everything from global politics to maybe even what you pay at the pump? Well, the people who designed the plan we're looking at today, they believe it can, and they've laid out a pretty detailed blueprint to prove it. All right, so the very first piece of this puzzle is a new deal for oil, and it's all focused on Venezuela's massive reserves. The proposal is pretty radical. It's designed to bring this major oil player, who's been mostly on the sidelines, back into the global market in a completely new way. Now, this plan suggests a really dramatic shift. The idea is to let Venezuelan oil flow again, but, and this is the key part, with the US government actually managing the sale. So this isn't just about reopening the pipelines. It's a fundamental change in who controls the oil, and maybe more importantly, where all that money goes. Okay, so what are the actual nuts and bolts of this thing? It's all built on a very specific four-step process. It's designed to control everything, from the oil tanker itself all the way to the bank account. Let's walk through exactly how it's supposed to work. The whole process is basically a closed loop. So, step 1, Venezuelan crude oil gets shipped to the US. Step 2, the US government then sells that oil at market rates. Step 3, the money from the sale goes into controlled accounts. It's not sent directly to Venezuela. And then step 4, those funds can only be used to buy American-made products. So what kind of stuff can that money buy? Well, the plan is very specific. We're talking about goods that are essential for rebuilding infrastructure and helping the population. Things like medical devices, agricultural goods, and even new energy equipment to get their oil fields back up and running. It's really designed to be this self-contained economic loop. Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, you have to look at this number. At its peak, Venezuela was pumping out 3.5 million barrels of oil every single day. Bringing that level of production back online would be a huge shift for the global energy supply. But, to put that in perspective, the US alone uses about 19 million barrels a day. So the idea here isn't to flood the market and crash prices. Instead, it's about securing a stable supply of a very specific kind of heavy crude oil that a lot of US refineries are built for, which could, in the end, help stabilize costs for consumers. And this is where we get to the much bigger picture. Because according to the people behind this plan, this isn't just about oil. No, it's a geopolitical power play. It's about using energy policy to redraw the strategic map and seriously boost US energy security. Okay, so here's the geopolitical angle. The plan is a way for the US to secure access to not just oil, but also to Venezuela's rare earth minerals. Those elements that are crucial for literally everything from our smartphones to advanced defense technology. This is seen as a direct counter to China, which pretty much dominates that market and has reportedly used that control as economic leverage. And this quote from former Energy Secretary Dan Wyatt really just nails the issue. The big concern is that these essential resources, from fuel for our cars to the minerals in our phones, are increasingly being treated not just as commodities, but as tools of foreign policy, or, as he puts it, economic weapons. Oh, and there's another really interesting ripple effect to think about. Venezuela is a founding member of OPEC, the powerful oil cartel. An arrangement where its production is basically being managed by the United States would, without a doubt, introduce a fascinating and probably unpredictable new dynamic into that whole organization. Now, while all of this is happening on the international stage, there's a parallel push happening right here at home. And the focus here is on nuclear power. But it's really two sides of the exact same strategic coin, achieving energy independence. So, the government is injecting a ton of money. We're talking nearly $3 billion into American companies. And what's the mission? To restart and seriously ramp up domestic uranium enrichment. That's the process that creates the fuel for our nuclear power plants. So, why the big rush? Well, it turns out the US has been importing about 90% of its uranium, and a huge chunk of that, a full quarter of the fuel for America's nuclear reactors, has been coming from Russia. I mean, just think about this. Nuclear power generates about 20% of all the electricity in the United States. Relying on Russia for the fuel that powers such a massive part of our grid is, well, it's seen as a major national security risk. So this investment is all about eliminating that vulnerability. Okay, So let's connect all the dots here. We've got a plan for Venezuelan oil on one hand and a plan for domestic uranium on the other. When you put them together, what you get is a really comprehensive blueprint for what the plan's supporters are calling energy security. So what exactly does energy security mean in this context? Well, it's a lot more than just keeping the lights on. It's a grand strategy. It's about using energy policy to strengthen national security, to cut down on foreign dependency, and to boost geopolitical influence, all with the stated goal of creating a wealthier and more peaceful world. So let's just recap the four main pillars of this whole strategy. First, stabilize Venezuelan oil under U.S. oversight. Second, use that access to counter China's leverage in the world of rare earth minerals. Third, rebuild our independence in the nuclear fuel cycle to get away from relying on Russia. And fourth, tie all of that together to strengthen the domestic energy grid. And all of this leaves us with one final and really critical question to think about. As nations start using resources more and more as leverage, are we entering a new era? An era where control over energy, from oil barrels all the way to uranium atoms, is the ultimate expression of global power? It's a complex picture for sure, but it's one that's going to define our century.